I think we got somebody on, okay. So if you can just mute your phones. So today's just another extension. I did go ahead and post the video for the Facebook creator. So that's up. And then once this video is done, I'll do the same thing. It usually takes me maybe like a couple hours, depending on when Zoom downloads it, to save it and post it onto the group. So I kind of wanted to continue the conversation on marketing, and more specifically touch on marketing from the perspective of accessing your potential clients. So I'll touch on all of these, but more so talk about during this Zoom, email marketing and cold calling. So for a lot of us, that's kind of where we get the bulk of our clients through, even though we definitely use all these other options, previous employers, networking, community events, chamber of commerce, as ways to actually get potential clients. And at the very end, I'll touch about the Medicare piece as well, how to use the Medicare.gov to get at least a listing of clients or potential clients. So have you guys ever done email marketing? I know you've received it because a lot of different companies do email marketing. Okay, let's see. No. Okay, so for the email marketing is that it's a mass email that you receive that you market to people who are on your contact list. So for instance, if you started the process with Medicare.gov and you had like a list of 10 administrators or directors of nursing that you've reached out to and you want to follow up with them, instead of doing a one-by-one, you can create a mass email, and it could just be maybe a check-in email or a follow-up email to them to kind of say, hey, you know, if you're still looking for staffing for your organization, this is who we are, this is what we do. Here's an attachment that talks a little bit about us and how we provide staffing services for your community. And what that does as a business person is when you send out the message, it allows you to track it. So on this clip here, I'm going to show you guys, it'll kind of touch just a little bit on what it looks like. So for me, I've used a couple of different email marketing platforms, including Constant Contact and MailChimp. But now that all of my business stuff is on Google, I use Google. So if you guys are on Google for your business related items, you can use it as well. So one of the reasons I like it is because it allows you to send, and it's just going to repeat the same thing, but it allows you to send that one email to multiple people at one time. But the other part of it is that you can actually track the email. So that's kind of like the marketing piece that's important for you, because you want to know where people are finding out about you as far as clients, as well as you also want to kind of know that from your employees as well, or your potential employees and applicants, like where are they hearing about you so that you can market in those areas more. And on this, it kind of shows you the back end. So once you do the email marketing, and I mentioned these are just some of the companies that service small businesses that are affordable, that you can get free trials. MailChimp has one. Google, they call it GMAS. Drip, ConverterKit, HubSpot, they all offer easy to use small business friendly platforms where you can create these emails. So this is one of the emails that went out to people for the mastermind, and it shows you the topic and everything like that. So this second part is what the report looks like that's generated from Google once your email goes out and people start either opening it up. So if you put in attachments, that's where you see like the unique opens. If you put in a link, that's where you'll see links. If you get replies, you always give people the option to unsubscribe. If it bounces back, which essentially is saying that the email that you have isn't viable. And then any rejections, it says because the Gmail account is over the limit, or if they block, of course, if they block your email. So for this one, there was 2 links given, and then it kind of touches on what people did. So it was sent out to 25 people, 14 opened it, 11 didn't, 4 clicked on the link. There was a link for this particular email, or if it's an attachment, it'll kind of say the same thing. And then 1 person did reply. So this helps you with kind of saying, okay, so when I do email marketing, whether you're marketing to clients or you're marketing to applicants, whether or not you're getting the type of response back. So I think they want, as long as you're getting about 22% on each one of the open, click, and replies in total, that's kind of the goal to say, okay, your campaign did well. And then Google does a lot of other reports, but this is the only report that I really look at to kind of tell me how that particular email did. And it also kind of helps you with your wording. So, and we'll talk a little bit about wording when we talk on phone script. So it tells you if people are opening, replying, clicking the links, that the language that you're using in your email is appealing to people. So the terminologies that you're using, the title that you use, because that all goes and plays into marketing. So if you send a follow-up email to a potential client and you get pretty much zeros down the line, then there's some areas that you need to tweak in. And that's where you can get myself or, coworkers or partners to kind of look at the email and kind of give you feedback to say, I would change this, or I would add this, maybe include this, or include a video if you're doing a video for your business, or include an attachment that kind of talks from a visual perspective about your organization. So I've found email marketing to be very helpful to me as an agency owner, just because it eliminates kind of that unknown when you're marketing, especially through, social media and other platforms, and it kind of gives you to say, okay, you're on the right track. People are interested when you present your organization in this way. So let's touch a bit on what to put into an email. What are some things you want to make sure to put into an email sending to a potential client? And I kind of go back to these slides from the marketing video just because it's really key. Since we already know, for most of us, the ability to kind of go in person and have that conversation or do like an in-person presentation isn't an option, you really want to make sure that the writing that you do in your emails kind of gives a visual of that as much as you can. And one of the things that I tell people to do is include some sort of, it can be a pamphlet, it could be a video, if you have video, if you're technically savvy in that way, with either an introduction email that you're sending out or a follow-up email, because you want to make sure that they kind of think of you when they have staffing needs. And in marketing, they say that visuals help people remember your organization, kind of like when we talked about before, the whole brand identity. When you see that little apple with the piece of it bitten out of it, you think of Apple iPhone, you think of the Apple laptop, you think of the iPad. So you want to also make sure that you're giving, in creating your brands, that you're giving that awareness, as well as create an email that tells them what's in it for them. 3 paragraphs is enough, because you definitely want to give them something to entice them. but you want to make sure that at the end, or kind of at the recap at the end, that you're telling them the benefits of working with your organization. Like, why you? There's hundreds of agencies out there. So the why you, or as I've told some people, is what you also want to include in your phone script, is specific to your organization. It's what, is your organizational goal, or your mission statement, or a variation of those things. So that when I look at your email for the, 2 or 3 minutes that people look at emails, I want to know more. I want to click on your website to find out, what else you guys are doing or where you're located. I want to be able to go to your Facebook page and see, different things that you're doing, whether or not you're doing things in the community or for your staff or in your business. So some ways that I think you can do that is through personalizing it. When I share the phone script with people, I share what I use, but I also encourage people to create it based on your comfort level. So not everybody is comfortable with speaking with people over the phone and selling their business. Not everybody is comfortable if people ask you questions on the spot or interrupt you when you're talking. So I think in the writing on the emails, you want to kind of give that message, but also when you decide to call, you want to make sure that you're giving that consistent message. So whatever you kind of spoke on in the email, you want to touch on again in the phone call. So the phone call. So I tell people the best way to get comfortable with doing the phone call to facilities is to practice. It's just like anything else. You want to make sure that you're confident and comfortable with the information that you're sharing. You're keeping it short and sweet, and that you're selling your agency, because to me, you guys are the experts. So that's kind of how you want to present. And for some people, their perception is that, oh, I have to have a lot of clients, or I have to have a lot of staff in order for potential clients to work with me. And that's just not the case. The last agency or clients that I've worked with, they never ask you, well, how many people do you have on staff? Because they want to just make sure that you can staff their facility. So as long as you're staffing their facility, the questions of how many people you have on staff typically don't come up. So I wouldn't worry about that. But you want to be ready for it. You want to be able to kind of give a candid answer. But I've never had that happen, and none of the people that I've worked with have had a client say, well, how many people do you have on staff? And a great way to kind of answer that question is to, let them know that you're an experienced nurse who has a network of people who work with your agency. You don't have to really get into the specifics. And you're able to staff, their staffing needs, whether it's a per diem or short-term or long-term contracts. And, this is a process that you go through. So for the phone call script, this is in the group as well. It's pretty just generic. It just kind of talks about, who you are, staffing services that you provide. And then I encourage people, and this is kind of where you want to make it more personal, is to talk about yourself, to sell your agency, kind of sell your contribution to your agency, where you say just a little bit about our agency. You want to let them know that you're in their community. A lot of healthcare facilities want to be connected to things that are in their communities, so that people have an understanding of how they operate and the culture of the people in that particular area. So those are always great things to add in. And then I always say that we're a nurse-owned staffing agency, and that makes you a lot more relatable. A lot of the bigger agencies that run out there aren't owned by nurses or healthcare professionals, so they have a little bit of a more hands-off approach, whereas no different than if you have a local community bank or a local community grocery store, when you're able to connect with people where you are, where you're from, it kind of creates a level of closeness, and that's something that you can use to your benefit. When you kind of get past the introduction, any questions that you decide to ask, you always want them to be open-ended questions. So we always kind of want to know, well, what's the nurse to patient ratio here at your facility? What are some of the challenges where you're having staffing issues? Are you having issues on the weekends? Are your issues at nights? Is it with your certified nursing assistants or nursing techs? Is it with your registered nurse or licensed practical nurse? Because that kind of allows you to create what you can give back to them in your follow-up email. A lot of places may say, oh, well, we're not interested in working with the staffing agency. We don't work with agencies, is what a lot of feedback people have gotten. So if they say they haven't worked with agencies, this is a great opportunity for you to educate them in the benefits of working with staffing agencies. Staffing agencies, whether it's in healthcare or administrative or legal or accounting or any industry, there's always going to be a need for them because people have leave, people get sick, people have, families and other responsibilities that might require them to be out of work. So it doesn't have to always be filling a need from a shortage standpoint of view. You could also be filling a need for someone who went out on FMLA, or maybe they had an injury at work and they had to, leave their position. So those are opportunities to kind of explain to them the benefits of, working with a staffing agency, specifically yours, in a capacity of a per diem or short-term and long-term contracts. And when you reply and follow up with them, you want to include more information about that, as far as how you structure your contracts. Well, we do 2 to 30 day short-term contracts. That's what we consider short-term. Or we do 13-week to 26-week long-term contracts. So you can be more specific about how your contracts are structured, as well as any sort of per diem or PRN. I touched a little bit on what are some of their staffing challenges. You definitely want to know what their challenges are. And then, of course, you also want to express how you can help them meet those challenges, how you can help them overcome them, things that you have in place that makes their job easier. In addition to being an experienced nurse who understands staffing, who has an agency in their community, you can also talk about, we have a scheduling system that allows us to access our employees quickly and easily and efficiently so that we can get your needs met in this time frame. We're able to, fill short-term needs for call-outs in 24 hours. We're able to, communicate with members of your team via these different platforms. We have a point of contact on our team who will be in touch with you on a weekly or bi-weekly basis to get updates on your scheduling needs. We perform different performance evaluations. We do extensive, background investigations and meet certain criterias. For individuals to work for an organization, you can touch on the fact that you would, work with them to make sure that, you're in alignment with meeting any specific training or educational criteria that they may have, in addition to what you require of your employees, or in services, offering orientation or, orientation to the facility so that you can make sure that, the employees that you bring on board are properly oriented into your facility prior to starting. So those are all some things that you can share with clients to let them know and kind of express to them why you would be a good fit, why it would be a benefit to work with your organization. And as always, you always want to follow up. So you always want to set up an opportunity to talk with them in person. I think during the marketing call, because things are different, I mentioned about doing Zoom meetings. So if, say, for instance, you had a client who may say, okay, we're interested. Can you do a presentation with me and the administrator, or me and our shift supervisor or our scheduler? Zoom is a great resource to do that, and it allows you to further make the connection with the client, and kind of talking about the history of your organization, touching on your background, um, being able to answer any additional questions that they may have, talking about your compliance process and your credentialing process, just so that all the questions they can possibly have can be answered at that time. As well, you're able to continue to market and sell your organization. And I found, and I think it's been the case for a lot of newer NOSAs, the more you do it, the more comfortable you become with doing it. The more, if you're at a networking event and you meet a client or a potential client, you're able to kind of do it on the spot. Of course, there's a lot of people that are naturally those types of individuals. And then there's definitely some of us out there who have to grow into it. So you want to practice it, because you never know in what setting that you might meet people. The healthcare industry is small. Clients are everywhere, and a lot of them are definitely on social media. So the best thing that you can do for yourself is just make sure that you're ready whenever the opportunity presents, and you're able to either share information about your organization, whether it's in print or verbally, depending on the circumstances, but it's in a way that people are interested in learning more and want to say to you, oh, maybe we're not interested right now, let's follow up. Or they may want to do a Zoom meeting or another meeting with you, or they may say to you, well, send us over a contract. So the marketing piece is really key when you're trying to get potential clients, and also remembering that when you're talking to them, a lot of times when clients are kind of telling you what's going on within their organization or some of the challenges that they're experiencing, they tell you what the problem is, and that gives you the opportunity to come back with your answer. So if they're telling you, hey, we're having a really hard time keeping night shift nurses or our weekend needs, then that's your opportunity to kind of touch on, our, on-demand scheduling. We're able to offer contracts, short-term contracts or long-term contracts specifically for shifts that you may have challenges filling. So you definitely want to think about those things as well. So do you guys have any questions? Okay, so I'm going to go back to the marketing slide, and I'm going to touch a little bit on the Med.gov and how to use it. If you haven't gotten a chance to check out the video, I go a little bit more in depth in the marketing video. But just to kind of help you all get an idea of where you might find the clients where you can use a lot of this email marketing and cold calling on, I've been able to, and a lot of other people have been able to do it through Medicare.gov. So I'm just going to go through one more time. So a lot of long-term care clinics, hospitals, they all get to people realize that a lot of are listening or on Medicare.gov with all of their information. But I tell people that this website really houses everything that you need when it comes to clients, or a lot of what you need, because the list is there. So you can work the list yourself. You can have a marketer or another work the list when it comes to marketing. The big thing about it is that it's something that you can look up. I'm going to use this area and see what's out there. Okay. Is it better, Jennifer? Is it better?
A little now.
Okay, what about now?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay, perfect. So when you go to the list, you'll see a couple of different healthcare systems. This is local to where I'm located, and you'll see these stars. So all your healthcare systems, long-term care, behavioral health, dialysis clinics, get rated by Medicare or Centers for Medicaid through a star rating to make sure that they're meeting specific criteria. So I'm not going to go into the criteria. We're just going to talk about the stars. So the stars are rated from 1 to 5. 5 being that you're meeting all the criteria of this specific type of healthcare system, and you're doing well. And there's other subcategories under that. So for this particular health system, Bayhealth Health System, their Kent campus is a 2. So that kind of tells me there's some areas that they're not quite meeting. And typically, one of the areas that most hospital systems aren't meeting is your staffing. So a way to look at it to see, how they did is to click on their healthcare system, and it'll bring up more details about how they did on their particular star rating in the areas where there were deficiencies. And it looks like a survey, but it has a few other pieces missing. Am I break again? Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm going to stay on this tab. Thanks, Diane. So I'm going to stay on this tab then. Okay. So it kind of gives you the general information, surveys of patients, timeliness and effectiveness, complications, unplanned visits, psychiatric services, and payment. So a lot of that stuff we all already know about, even if it's just pieces of it. And then, based on how they did or didn't do, if you want more details, you can click on those tabs. They ended up with this overall rating of a 2. So for healthcare systems or hospitals or long-term care or dialysis clinics that have 2, 9 times out of 10, and you can see it in here, they have some sort of staffing issues. Those are the places where we start. So you want to start with places that already have staffing issues. For those who have a 5-star rating, you still want to reach out to those places, but it's better to start here. And as I mentioned before, you have all the information that you need. The name of the hospital, where it's located, and a phone number. So that's your starting point. When you're actually going out to make the calls, I tell people try to get with either your human resources or your scheduler type, which a lot of times is in human resources, or your administrator. And a lot of that depends on how big of a hospital it is. Because this is in the town that I live, this isn't a big hospital system. So the bigger the hospital system, typically you have more layers. But as you kind of maneuver through that process, you'll definitely get to a couple of people that lead you down the wrong road. That's just cold calling. But you'll get to somebody who will give you more information. So these are the typical answers that I've seen in my experience. They'll either get you to the right person, they'll give you a phone number, they'll transfer you, and you'll be able to leave a voicemail, which is fine. That's a good starting point. You won't get to the right person, and maybe you have to do a little bit of research online, which is okay too, because you have enough information here to find out a little bit more about somebody who you can talk to at BayHealth, because most health systems have who their director of operations or purchasing is, or if you don't have the name of the person, they have a phone number. The other answer that you might get is we don't use agencies, we work with a vendor management system. So in the video I'm doing on Saturday, I'll talk a little bit more about what the vendor management system is, which is essentially a third party. And on the events tab where it's located for the time in the Zoom meeting, it showed you some of the names. So some of the names that you see for the vendor management systems that are out there for healthcare are names that are familiar. They could be Career Staff, Stafferly, AMN Healthcare, Cross Country. Those are all vendor management systems. And in the video I'll tell you more details so it makes a little bit more sense. But assuming for this instance, this particular organization isn't a part of a vendor management system, you kind of start here when it comes to the cold calling, and then that list of, I believe it was like 60 or so hospitals in like a 50-mile radius, you just work the list. What I do is I assign a specific date and time to it, and I just put the information into an Excel spreadsheet, and then every week I kind of track my status with it. It could be that I'm making progress and there, I have the information and I've sent emails. It could be a little bit of a standstill. And in those instances, I encourage people to reach back out to me and kind of tell me what's going on, and I might be able to assist to see what might be happening, because some of the hospitals might be private, but for the most part, these aren't private hospitals, but that might be what the challenge is, what the roadblock could be. So that's definitely been the most responsive way to get clients. But as you guys already know, you also can get clients through your local, state, and city. There's a lot of staffing opportunities through there for agencies where you can do bidding and requests for proposals. There's staffing opportunities through your school systems, your corrections, and then of course there's also staffing opportunities at your state and federal levels for your Veterans Administration, your Indian Health Services. So there's staffing opportunities where, and those look a little bit different than this process. But for the most part, once you kind of get comfortable with the, the cold calling and the marketing, it definitely makes things a little bit easier for you when getting out there. Some of the things that I would just take into account when you're getting started with the marketing is having a plan. So you want to have on paper how you plan to reach out to these places. Like, where do you want to start? Do you want to start in your own network? So if you have employers that you worked for previously, that's a great place to start. That's where we started with our agency. We reached back out to employers that we worked with. And then, have it be, your community, and then networks or referrals, like if you were able to get, potential clients through referrals. So it just needs to be a mix of different potential clients that you can get access to, and you want to make sure that in having the plan,
there's also a written piece of what you're going to do. So if you're going to say, hey, I'm going to speak with this facility on Monday, and then maybe follow up on Friday, and then, you know, kind of go down the list, and then I'm going to go to these particular events or attend these networking events, so that you can start to see yourself make progress. And one of the reasons I kind of titled that particular marketing module, Getting Your Contract in Their First 30 Days, is because it happens. A lot of people make a lot of headway with their contracts. And one of the things that you have to be doing in order to see those types of results is being persistent. It may look like making 50 calls a day. So if you do your Medicare list and it's 100 names on that list, you need to be making 10 to 15 calls a day. And that's marketing, whether it's for healthcare staffing or it's marketing in sales or clothing. That's kind of the piece that takes people some time to adjust to, is that you really have to be on the telephone and have yourself out there on a consistent basis in order to see those types of results. As well, you also have to become comfortable with selling your organization and seeing yourself as the, you know, expert on your agency, you know, expert in the industry. Which for some people, kind of depending on what, you know, your personality can vary. And you also want to be organized. When you get started, like that first couple of weeks, a lot of different things happening, and sometimes it's happening at the same time. You want to be organized about where you spend your time, what you spend your time doing. A great example was early on when I was doing the marketing, I would do majority of my marketing between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. every day. And sometimes that looks like emails, sometimes that looks like phone calls, sometimes that looks like research. But every day from 10 to 12, that's what I focused on. And that kind of helps you kind of see how your progress is, so that in 3 weeks, you can look back and say, okay, I heard back from 5 people, or I sent out contracts to 2 people, or for some people, it might be that I didn't have any results. And then at those moments, you reach back out to myself, or if you have partners, to your partner, to kind of identify what you might be doing wrong. And for some people, some of the things that I've seen people think that they may be doing wrong or might be missing the mark at is feeling comfortable with being an agency owner and being prepared. So if you bump into me or you bump into another client or someone else in a regular social setting, are you prepared or even comfortable to sell your agency to them? And if it's not something that you are prepared to do, then it's something you really want to practice on. It's something that you want to spend time with friends and family members, you know, presenting yourself, you know, how do you present to other people, you know, getting feedback. One of the things, and I still struggle with it myself, is I talk with my hands a lot, and it's just how I'm set up. So it's something that I'm mindful of. So, or using I still use I think we all use it, some of us more than others, but just being mindful of it. And as time goes on, those things will, you know, resolve themselves, or they'll just become part of your personality. So really getting comfortable with the content about your organization. If you're saying you're providing services for labor and delivery, you're providing, you know, cardiac nurses or long-term care nurses, you want to make sure that you're comfortable with that content, the different systems that those particular specialties use, as well as, you know, different things that are specific to your communities. In places where it snows a lot, you know, that's definitely an opportunity for you to market that piece too. a potential client. If you're in an area where there's a lot of snow, you want to make sure that you express that you have a contingency plan for that. So that in the winter months, because we're running into fall and then winter is right behind it, that's not going to be an issue. If you are in a state like Florida where they have a lot of hurricanes, you want to address, that piece, because you don't want that to be a hurdle either for staff members as well. So you want to kind of think through some of the things that might be hurdles from like a geographic standpoint of view. You want to touch on, we ensure that our employees have, proper transportation to get back and forth to work. That they have specific certifications or additional certifications. I think in this module or the one before, I touched on the fact that in Maryland, they have a role called geriatric nursing assistant. If that's something that your client is interested in versus a certified nursing assistant, then you can expect that we recruit for geriatric and certified nursing assistants. So that we can meet, the specific needs of the geriatric population if you were talking to someone in long-term care. So those are just some of the things to consider. All the platforms, including these, have trials, free trials. I would encourage you guys to check it out. If you're on Google, check out, it's called GMass. So it's a part of the Google platform. It's with the email marketing, but Constant Contact, HubSpot, MailChimp are all familiar email marketing platforms. And don't try to make it something big. Keep it as simple as possible. Check out the free versions of it and see if it works for you. It's not something that you have to do, but it's definitely something to keep in mind from a time-saving standpoint of view, so that you're able to kind of autopilot some of the things, like when you send out group emails. If you're sending essentially the same content or the same information, email marketing really allows you to do that seamlessly and kind of track how that email is going. If you guys want me to look at any emails that you're thinking about sending out, just send it to the info@the-NOSA group and put marketing in the subject line, just so I know what it is. If you guys want to practice with me on any phone call scripts or mock phone calls to potential clients that you're interested in reaching out to, again, let me know. Just put it in the title of the email, and we can figure out a time and make that happen. As always, any questions or suggestions, definitely feel free to reach out to me. The next video that touches on marketing a little bit is your vendor management system. So that's the last one on Saturday. And then I'll kind of go into recruiting. I think for the most part, everybody I've touched bases with, if not by now, by the end of the weekend, I'll touch bases with everybody to, kind of get an idea of your launch goals and get an idea of, where you might need some assistance in getting started. I encourage you to create your SMART goals so that you can kind of have an idea of what you want to accomplish by the end of the month, because August is almost over, and I know some of the things that you're trying to accomplish aren't always things that you have in your control, like, the registration with the state and things like that. There's, elements that involve other people. But just keep moving at it, keep working at it. I'll still be doing the sessions every week, and then kind of doing these follow-up or additional sessions for you guys, and getting you out as much information as possible. And as I mentioned before, I'm still doing the weekly one-on-one. So if you haven't gotten a chance to sign up for your one-on-one, definitely reach out to me and set up a time for us to talk. And I also encourage you guys, if you haven't, to reach out to each other. I think just about everybody has joined the NOSA group. We had a thing today that talks about background investigations, and I'll touch more on that in the recruitment piece next week. So we'll talk more about the background investigations, but all the content that we talk about here, there's bits and pieces of it within the group if you want to check it out here. But the Nurspreneurs allows you to kind of do it in a smaller group in a more organized fashion. As well, if you guys haven't gotten a chance to connect with Katie and her team on doing your brand and setting up your websites, please include that in your SMART goals, because that's really going to be key. It's going to really be key when it comes to marketing as well, as I mentioned before, because a lot of times people look to your social media as that first view. So if you talk with me, you tell me about your organization, 9 times out of 10, the next thing I'm going to do is look on your Facebook or your Instagram just to get a better feel for who you are and what you're about. So you want to make sure that you have something there for them to look at. And then we can go over the Facebook Creator again. If you guys want to do it again, I did post the video, but for you guys who have a Facebook business page, we can definitely set up a time to go over that. And maybe for some of you guys, we'll do it as a part of your one-on-one sessions so that I can kind of help you link up all of that so that you can actually start putting some content out there to just let people know that you're coming soon. So, any other questions for me? So do you guys have any other questions for me?
Shamika, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm not sure who was talking, but I'm listening.
This is Angela.
Okay.
I guess we're actually trying to get our one-on-ones set up with you.
Yes.
I don't know if you responded to my partner, Jennifer.
I set it up. It was set up for today. She just emailed me.
Oh, okay, great. Great. Okay. All right. I think that's the only question that I had.
Okay. Yeah, I think we'll talk tomorrow.
Okay, great.
And do you guys have any questions about the page? So when I do the Zooms, I put them under the Events tab. And they also should be popping up under Features as well. And then you can click on the 2 little things. Is that where you guys are seeing them? I think I have it for you than you guys have. So I'm not sure if that's the same space that you guys are seeing for the event.
I see it now, Shamika.
You do? Okay, perfect. Great.
Thank you.
No problem. So if you guys don't have anything else for me, thanks for hanging out with me tonight. Let's see. So Diane asked which company for email marketing is the best. So I've used Constant Contact, and right now I'm using the GMAS. So I'm not actually using a company to create the marketing, because Constant Contact is nice because they allow you to do newsletters and other things like that. But I'm kind of trying to pull more things in-house, so I'm doing a lot of that and just kind of pushing it out there through Gmail, through Gmail's GMAS platform. But Constant Contact is good, and I've also heard good things about MailChimp. And both of those have apps, so you can do a lot of the work on your phone if you wanted to.
So Shamika, the next meeting is Saturday?
Correct.
Vendor
Saturday.
management?
Yes, the vendor management systems on Saturday. And I think it's a little bit earlier. I want to say it's 6. Like all the meetings for me are going to be Eastern. I want to say it's 6:15.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I'm looking to see, double check the time. I want to say it's Saturday at 6:15.
See, 67 Eastern Standard Time, maybe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's gonna be Eastern Standard, correct?
Okay. So,
Okay.
Okay, so if you guys can join me then, feel free to do so. But just like with this video, once it uploads to Zoom, I'll download it and share it into the group as well.
Okie dokie, thank you.
All right, you guys have a great evening, okay?
okay, thank you.
Thank you.